The hottest new autumn game, Thorns of a Moonless Night, lets players take on the role of Claire, a brilliant commoner girl, and pursue a love story with three handsome young men. The game's most iconic ad shows the main villainess, Penelope, holding Claire hostage as the three male leads confront her. On a massive screen in the middle of the city, the three handsome bachelors were on full display. Their slogan echoed, "Don't be afraid. This time we'll be the ones to protect you." A group of fangirls waiting for the crosswalk light stared up at the screen, their eyes sparkling. They were so busy drooling over the fictional pretty boys that they didn't even notice the light turn green. Just then, a cool, aloof voice came from behind them. "Excuse me, could you move?" The girls snapped out of it and shuffled aside, embarrassed. As the cool beauty walked past, one of the fans noticed her earrings. "Hey, aren't those the limited edition earrings from Thorns of a Moonless Night? The ones you can only get if you're the #1 player on the server?" The time was 6:38 p.m. on June 31st. A light rain began to fall as the woman walked alone down the street. Her phone buzzed. It was a survey from the game developers, sent exclusively to the top-ranked player, promising a special gift upon completion. Question: Is this your first Automie game? Question: How did you find out about our game? A friend recommended it. Question: Who is your favorite character in the game? And why? Just then, a notification popped up. A message from her mother. She tapped it and saw a photo of her little brother's birthday party. The message mentioned all their relatives had come over to celebrate. Staring at the happy family in the photo, she thought for a moment before typing her reply to the survey. "If I have to choose, I guess the Villainess." "Why is that?" As she stepped onto the crosswalk, the next message from her mother made her freeze in place. She quietly typed her final answer. "Because I feel like we're a lot alike." Suddenly, the blaring horn of a speeding bus filled the air. She realized what was happening too late. With a sickening thud, she was thrown to the ground. On her shattered phone screen, her mother's last message glowed. "Don't bother coming home today. You'll just ruin everyone's fun." One last question appeared on the phone. "What do you hope to gain from the game?" With her last breath of consciousness, she whispered, "To be loved." A system voice followed. "Data input complete. Data analysis complete. Generating compatible character. Welcome to Thorns of a Moonless Night." Miss? A voice called out. She groggily opened her eyes, her head throbbing. She was in a completely unfamiliar room. "Lady Penelope, thank goodness, you're finally awake." A girl dressed as a maid pulled back her bed curtains, her face full of relief. Apparently, the headache was because Penelope had been playing in a freezing lake in the middle of winter. The maid clucked her tongue. "I've worked here for 30 years, and I've never heard of such a thing." She gently scolded her, reminding her to remember her status and not to do anything so improper again. The girl in the bed was completely lost. She had no idea what status she was supposed to have. The maid prompted her. "You are Penelope Eckhart, the young lady of the most noble house in the entire kingdom outside of the royal family. From the day she was born, everyone had high hopes for her. She was supposed to inherit the title of Divine Maiden and bring honor to her family. But that dream shattered the day the title was given to someone else. Bitterness, jealousy, and resentment twisted her once pure heart. That was the beginning of the game's story. And the beautiful, if childish face looking back at her was, without a doubt, the game's most despised villainess, Penelope Eckhart. You've got to be kidding me, she thought, feeling incredibly wronged. If she had to be reborn in a game, why couldn't she be the heroine? Do the damn devs hate their biggest spenders this much? While she was lost in thought, a few maids came in and started getting her ready, informing her that today was a rare family dinner and she had to be on her best behavior. After a lot of fussing, a maid pulled back the curtain in front of a full-length mirror. Just moments ago, she'd been grumbling about what a 5-year-old could possibly do with her looks. But seeing her reflection, she had to admit, maybe there was something there. The maid's eyes were sparkling. One of them sighed. "Helen, the head maid, is truly the best. She's made the young lady look absolutely perfect." But Helen shook her head. "No, it's not enough. Her hair is too poofy. There are too many bows, and these pearls should be aquamarines. Otherwise, it won't perfectly complement the young lady's beauty." She immediately sent the other maids scurrying off to find the right accessories. Penelope sighed internally. It's just lunch. Why is everyone making such a big deal out of it? Just then, her stomach let out a loud grumble. She threw herself at the head maid, wrapping her arms around her. She was just so hungry. She hugged Helen's arm and put on her best puppy dog eyes. To her surprise, the head maid whispered, "Cute," and promptly fainted, not waking up for a full 30 minutes. Turns out the head maid had a major soft spot for cute little kids. When she finally came to and saw a prim and proper Penelope, she even started crying. "My lady is all grown up." Well, at least it seemed like Helen genuinely cared for Penelope. But the person Penelope really needed to watch out for was the game's tyrannical duke, Derek Eckhart. In the game, her own brother was responsible for at least half of the misery that led to Penelope's death, perhaps as a way to show his righteousness. As siblings, they couldn't avoid each other forever, but Derek spent most of his time training with the knights. If she was careful and didn't provoke him. Lost in thought, little Penelope suddenly bumped into someone. Rubbing her head, she looked up and saw him. Her own brother Derek, great, just great. Little Penelope told herself to stay calm. Right now, Derek was only 10 or so. No matter how ruthless he became in the future, that was still years away. All she had to do was be careful. With that in mind, she plastered a bright smile on her face and chirped, "Greetings, esteemed brother." Derek, however, didn't seem to recognize her at all. He picked her up by the collar like a kitten and asked quizzically, "What is this thing?" Thing? He called her a thing? Penelope couldn't stomach that. Her eyes turned red as she flailed her arms and legs, trying to fight him, but she couldn't reach a thing. Just then, a maid rushed over to intervene. "Young master, have you forgotten after being away for 4 years? This is Lady Penelope, your younger sister." Derek's eyes widened in recognition. Oh, right, the ugly one. His last memory of Penelope was from when she was a wrinkly newborn. Penelope was fuming. "You rude little brat!" she screamed in her head. "Do you have any idea who I am? I'm the one who pays the devs' salaries, and the devs made you. Do the math, that makes me your grandpa." She fantasized about giving her new brother a good smack. Suddenly, Derek pinched her cheek hard, and little Penelope's eyes filled with tears. "Young master, what are you doing?" the maid cried out. Derek narrowed his eyes. "I have a feeling she's cursing me out in her head." The maid quickly scooped Penelope into her arms. "The young lady is on her way to breakfast. Would the young master like to join her?" Hiding in the maid's arms, Penelope shot him a glare. "You little jerk. Next time, I'm not buying you that premium gem pack." Derek replied that he had just returned and needed to greet their mother first. The word mother shocked Penelope. The Duchess Eckhart? She was never even mentioned in the game. If she could get her mother on her side, her chances of surviving Derek would be much, much higher. She couldn't miss this opportunity. "Wait for me," she shouted after him. "My $100 gem pack? Wait for me, brother Derek." Penelope ran as fast as her little legs could carry her, but the hallway was so long. She suddenly felt how short her legs were. She remembered the in-game Penelope being a tall, stunning beauty. Why were her childhood legs so short? Derek could cover in one step what took her 3. It wasn't fair. He was only 5 or 6 years older than her. Up ahead, her brother called out, "Mother, it's time for breakfast." A stunningly beautiful woman appeared. Penelope gasped. She's a total bombshell, and so grand." Their mother looked at little Penelope and asked, "Why are you so out of breath? Did you run all the way from your room?" Then she swept Penelope up in her arms for a hug and a kiss. Her brother stood by, looking unimpressed. "Mother, you spoil her too much." But their mother just smiled fondly. "Little children are meant to be spoiled, aren't they, my sweet Penelope?" "Mm-hmm." Penelope was completely melting in her mother's embrace. Her mother then teased, "I wish Derek would act this cute with me sometimes." Penelope chimed in, "Yeah, exactly." Derek immediately bristled. "Please don't say such ridiculous things. I am here to escort you to breakfast." Little Penelope savored the warmth of her mother's hug. But another image flashed in her mind, a furious woman screaming at her. "Get out! How dare you still show your face here? If it weren't for you. If only I had never given birth to you. Wake up, time to eat." Her brother gave her a little flick on the forehead. "Huh? What happened?" she mumbled, rubbing her head. Her mother looked at her worriedly, asking if she'd had a nightmare. She had been muttering, "I'm sorry," in her sleep. Penelope said she didn't know. Were those images from her past life? Who was that woman? What kind of person had she been? When she tried to remember more, it was like hitting a wall. Nothing. Her mother asked gently if she was still feeling unwell from her dip in the lake. Penelope reassured her, deciding not to dwell on it for now. The rest of the meal passed cheerfully, with the siblings playfully bickering. After they finished, their mother asked Derek why he'd returned so suddenly. He explained that the God's Miracle Day was next month. Hearing that, Penelope asked what God's Miracle Day was. Her mother explained that it was a festival held by the Temple of Ernest every 5 years, where the future heirs of the great noble families gathered to hear the gods' will. Ernest. The name sounded familiar. The Temple of Ernest? Penelope racked her brain. Wait, wasn't that the game's announcement board? She remembered the in-game pop-ups. "Dear players, it's your daddy here. So sorry that the latest update ruined your game experience. Here's some useless junk as compensation. You'd better not complain." An idea sparked in Penelope's mind. If she went to the festival, maybe she could communicate with the game developers and find a way back home. "I want to go too," she declared. Her brother suddenly stood up, leaned in close to her, and said in a low voice, "I just said that only the future heirs of each family can attend. Are you saying you want to challenge me for the position of heir to the Eckhart family?" His hand drifted to the hilt of his sword. Crap. She'd gotten carried away. Penelope quickly pushed his sword back into its sheath and played dumb. "What are you talking about, brother? I don't understand. I just want to go out and have some fun." "Mom, save me," she pleaded silently. As if on cue, her mother began to cough violently, drawing everyone's attention. A maid rushed over, panicked. "Ginseng tea? The doctor specifically told you not to drink ginseng tea." Penelope had assumed her mother was just faking it to help her, but hearing the maid's words, she realized her mother was truly sick. Why didn't the Duchess ever appear in the game? The question popped into her head again. No, maybe she had. In the game, there was a scene where Penelope grabbed her brother's collar and demanded, "Why are you so good to that woman? Have you forgotten what happened to Mom? It's all her fault." Derek had shoved her away, yelling, "Enough! Stop blaming others! You were the one who killed Mother!" In the original story, Penelope used all her powers to try and heal her terminally ill mother, but nothing worked. As she cried, her mother comforted her. "Don't be sad. It's the gods' will, not your fault." She told Penelope that she was a gift from the gods. With those words, her mother passed away. Penelope had screamed, "No! Mom, it's all my fault! It's because I'm not the real divine maiden, so my blessings didn't work. Because I'm a fake, Mom died." Losing her divine power had made Penelope powerless to save the person she loved most. The pain never faded, and eventually it twisted into rage directed at others. It was the only way she could keep going. That's why she was so cruel to Claire. Such a sad, pathetic villain. Remembering this, little Penelope's eyes filled with tears. Her mother hugged her tightly, wiping them away and asking if Derek had scared her. Looking at her kind mother, Penelope thought, "This loving woman in front of me doesn't have much time left." She hugged her mother even tighter. Her mother, thinking Penelope was admitting to being scared, then asked, "Do you really want to be the heir that badly, Penelope?" Penelope answered absent-mindedly, "What if I said yes?" Her mother paused, then said playfully, "Well, then we'd have to hire a lot of tutors for you. If I had my way, I'd want you to grow up far from all this conflict, happy and safe. You could study whatever you're interested in, find a job you love, and marry someone you love and start a family. If being the heir is what will make you happy, then you should fight for it. Whatever you choose, your mother will always support you." She added that surpassing Derek wouldn't be easy, and she'd be cheering for both of them. Suddenly, little Penelope shot up and ran out the door yelling, "No, I don't want that ending." The hands that had so gently stroked her hair belonged to a woman who would be dead in a year. She refused to accept that ending. She ran so fast that the maids couldn't stop her. Not until she burst into the training grounds in the courtyard. Her brother Derek was there with a group of knights, practicing archery. When she suddenly ran in, an arrow nearly hit her. But Penelope stood her ground, her face filled with a new resolve. This time, she thought, "I won't make the same mistakes." Derek realized the intruder was none other than his eccentric little sister. "Are you okay?" he asked, rushing over. A handsome young man training beside him stared at Penelope's face. "Am I seeing things?" the young man wondered. The look on that child's face. Can a 5-year-old really look like that? Derek, however, didn't notice anything unusual. He grabbed her head, checking for injuries. When he saw she was fine, he grabbed her arm and lifted her up. "This is not a place for you. Go back," he said angrily. Penelope knew she couldn't leave. She had to find a way to contact the developers and save her mother. Throwing her pride to the wind, she put on an innocent smile, held out her little hands towards Derek, and pouted. "Brother, carry me." The entire training ground went silent. Derek just stared at her, completely baffled. Penelope herself was cringing so hard she wanted to throw up. This is so embarrassing, she thought. But right now, her cuteness was the only weapon she had. The handsome young man looked on in shock. The Eckhart family. I didn't realize they were the loving siblings type. He had assumed the cold and ruthless Derek would never be swayed by something like this. But he was wrong. Although Derek was trying his best to look annoyed, he was taking deep breaths. He was clearly flustered. Not knowing what Penelope was planning, Derek sighed, picked her up like a sack of potatoes, and deposited her outside the training grounds. "It's dangerous in here. Don't come in again," he said, before turning and walking away. Little Penelope stomped her foot in frustration, but then she thought, at least the current Derek didn't seem to hate her as much as his game counterpart did. That was a good sign. If she could talk to him, she could raise his affection level. He shouldn't underestimate a veteran player like her. The next morning, with a secret plan in mind, little Penelope snuck back into the training grounds. "Brother, have some water. Brother, I tried baking cookies, have one. Brother, be careful when you train. Don't get hurt, I'll worry about you. Little Penelope's sweet voice echoed across the field. Derek was so flustered that he kept messing up, even nearly breaking his sparring partner's arm. He had reached his limit. Just then, the handsome young man suggested, "Just let her watch from the side. It's not like it'll kill you. Swords and magic don't have eyes." Derek retorted, "This is no place for a little girl." The young man smirked. "You're just worried about her but too stubborn to admit it." Just then, little Penelope ran over, holding another box of mysterious goodies for her brother. At that exact moment, a young apprentice magician, guided by his master, successfully cast his first spell. And as luck would have it, the ball of magic flew right towards Penelope. Everyone gasped. But in a flash, a hand shot out and blocked the spell. With a loud boom, the magic was deflected into a nearby bush, sending dirt flying everywhere. "Penelope, Eckhart, I warned you it was dangerous here!" Her brother's cold voice cut through the air. Penelope opened her eyes to see a large, bloody gash across his palm. From that day on, a sign hung on the iron gate of the training grounds, "Penelope not allowed." Little Penelope squatted outside the gate, feeling helpless. It wasn't like she'd gone in completely unprepared, she had a defensive spell ready. But she never imagined her brother would jump in front of her to take the hit. Now, forget raising his affection level. She'd be lucky if he didn't hate her. Just then, the gate creaked open and a young lady walked out. Penelope immediately ran up to her. "Is my brother okay?" The lady reassured her. "It was a light attribute spell, so the damage isn't too severe. Don't worry, it won't affect his daily activities, and he should be fine for the God's Miracle Day. He just probably won't be able to make the trip to the Mirkwood Forest next week." "The Mirkwood Forest?" Penelope asked, curious. The lady explained, "It's a high-risk monster forest that the Eckhart family manages. Every summer, the monsters there become incredibly violent. But it's also the only time a flower called the Tears of Ernest blooms. Magical armor made from it can block one fatal blow for its owner. It's an extremely rare material. If the young master had that, his hand would heal much faster." Before the lady could finish, Penelope had vanished. A short while later, she was in the family library. She remembered it now. The Mirkwood Forest was a dungeon in the game that only max-level players could enter. It was so difficult it had even trended on social media. But if you had a certain item, you could clear it without taking any damage. Little Penelope exclaimed. She had found the instructions for making the item in a book. "Derek, just you wait," she thought with a grin. "I'm going to bring you the Tears of Ernest, and you're going to owe me big time." That afternoon, 2 tearful maids came to the training grounds looking for Penelope. They hadn't seen her since the morning. The young lady who had spoken to Penelope earlier suddenly paled. "I told her about the Tears of Ernest this morning." "Don't tell me she went to the Mirkwood Forest?" Derek's face went white. Did Penelope go to get the Tears of Ernest by herself as an apology? Without a second thought, he took off running. By nightfall, Derek was deep in the Mirkwood Forest, frantically searching for Penelope. Suddenly, a monster the size of a small hill, covered in black fur with glowing red eyes, appeared before him. It's a highly aggressive level 6 monster, a wraith lion. If Penelope ran into this thing, he thought, his heart sinking. Just then, he saw a glove pinned under the monster's paw. It was one Penelope always wore. Derek's mind went blank. After a fierce battle, Derek defeated the beast. He picked up his sister's glove, clutching it tightly, overcome with guilt. But just then, he heard Penelope's voice. He raced towards the sound and found her sitting on the ground, covered in dirt and rubbing her head. Seeing her brother, Penelope's face lit up, but he just started yelling at her. "What are you doing here? Do you know how dangerous this place is? I thought you were dead." Penelope just grinned sheepishly. "I'm sorry. But look, I found the flower you wanted. So, can you not be mad at me anymore?" With that, she passed out. Back home, the doctor confirmed Penelope was fine, just exhausted. She would be okay after some rest. Their mother was terrified when Derek told her about the level 6 monster he'd encountered. Everyone said Penelope was incredibly lucky. The truth was, the monster guarding the Tears of Ernest was high level, but you could use a paralysis potion to stun it for 3 seconds, then use a specific movement pattern to glitch it out. Basically, she had exploited a bug. Penelope was just glad the game world had copied over the bugs too. After sleeping for a whole day and night, Penelope finally woke up to find her brother slumped over her bedside, where he had been watching over her the entire time. It looked like her gamble had paid off. She'd successfully raised his affection level. Remembering how he'd suddenly appeared in the forest and how worried he'd been, she felt a strange warmth. For a moment, it felt like the boy holding her wasn't the cold-blooded Derek from the game, but a real brother who cared for his little sister. Stroking his hair, she thought, as long as Mother doesn't die, the real Penelope won't turn into that monster. Maybe they could have been like normal siblings. She decided she'd stick around a little longer, just until she could give him his real sister back. The god's miracle day finally arrived, and Penelope got her wish. Derek brought her along. Nobles arrived at the chapel district in fancy carriages, while commoners could only watch from the outskirts. Penelope was determined to sneak into the main sanctuary, so she used the classic "I have to use the bathroom" excuse. But her dutiful guard said the young master had ordered him not to let her out of his sight. Little Penelope's face turned green. "Are you going to follow me into the bathroom too?" she shrieked. The crowd immediately turned on the guard, whispering and shaking their heads. Mortified, the guard had no choice but to let her go. As she rounded a corner, she heard a shout. "You little brat, you got my shoes dirty." Curious, she peeked around and saw a chubby noble yelling at a little commoner girl who had accidentally stepped on his shoe. Other nobles nearby were muttering about why a commoner was even in this area. "I didn't mean to," the little girl stammered, apologizing over and over. But the other nobles just egged the man on. The chubby noble raised his hand to strike the girl, but Penelope ran out and shielded her. "I'm so sorry," she said to the nobles. "This is a distant relative of mine who has been living abroad. If she offended you in any way, I apologize on behalf of the Eckhart family. If my apology isn't enough, my father can pay you a personal visit in a few days." Hearing the name Eckhart, the man paled. "The ruthless Duke Eckhart?" No, that's not necessary," he stammered. He and the other nobles scattered in an instant. The little girl thanked Penelope profusely, asking for her name. Her hand was bleeding, and she accidentally stained Penelope's dress. But Penelope didn't mind and even helped her bandage the wound. After that, Penelope remembered her urgent mission and quickly said goodbye. Not long after Penelope left, someone came looking for the little girl. Her name was Claire. It was her mother, who scolded her, saying this wasn't a place for people of their class, and quickly pulled her away. "Mom," Claire said, looking back, "I think I just saw an angel." Walking away, Penelope had no idea what had just happened. She just felt like that girl looked familiar. Maybe she was some NPC. After a long journey, Penelope found herself outside the main sanctuary, trying to climb in through a window. Her short legs scrambled for a foothold when she accidentally stepped on something soft. A man's voice said, "Excuse me, miss," and Penelope was so startled she fell. The man caught her easily, smiling. "I thought a little kitten had fallen." Penelope looked up and her jaw dropped. It was Callisto Devonshire, the Empire's one and only crown prince. He was the game's poster boy, a certified genius of lightning magic. He was adored by all, but secretly, he was the leader of an underground revolutionary group, working with the heroine to weaken the nobility and fight for commoners' rights. Over the course of the game, he falls for the strong-willed and clever heroine. A child version of the prince had never even appeared in the game. What was he doing here? Just then, she heard guards approaching. "Oh crap," she thought. "My apologies, I have urgent business to attend to." "Please forgive my rudeness, Your Highness," she said quickly. The prince took her hand and brought it to his lips for a gentle kiss. "I'm sure this won't be our last meeting," he said with a smile. Penelope's face turned beet red. Who could handle that? She took off running before the guards could see her, but her heart was still pounding. No wonder he's the center character. He's so smooth. And no wonder the original Penelope fell for him. She was hiding in a bush, her thoughts racing, when a patrol guard found her and yanked her out. "This is a restricted area." "What are you doing here?" he barked. Before Penelope could explain, a beautiful, noble, and holy woman appeared before them. The guard immediately bowed. "Holy maiden!" The holy maiden said Penelope was her guest and asked him not to trouble her. The guard, completely smitten, agreed at once and promised to stand guard outside for them. Penelope followed the holy maiden into the main sanctuary, marveling at the hidden room. "So is she one of the game developers?" Just as she was about to ask, the holy maiden threw herself to the ground, hugged Penelope's legs, and started wailing. "Top ranker, please forgive us. We didn't mean for this to happen." Penelope was completely bewildered. What was this act? "Get up first," she said. "Let's talk this out." "I won't get up," the holy maiden sobbed. "Let go of me." "No, not until you forgive me." After a bit of struggling, Penelope lost her patience. She balled her fists and gave the wailing woman a few good smacks. After that, the holy maiden, sporting a few bruises, finally admitted that she was, in fact, one of the game developers. "A female developer?" Penelope asked, looking at her flawless beauty. "With that beauty and grace, are you the lead artist, Yuxi?" The holy maiden shook her head. "No, I'm the planner, Jean, and I'm a guy." He then preened. "Don't I look great in this form?" I begged Yuxi to draw it for me. Big-chested beauties are the best, right? Before he could finish, Penelope had him in a chokehold. "You damn dev! I'll kill you!" As Jean started foaming at the mouth, Penelope snapped out of it. "Sorry," she said, letting go. "For some reason, my body has an uncontrollable urge to murder anyone who says the word planner." Penelope figured that even if he was the most unreliable one, at least she'd made contact with someone from her world. She smiled sweetly. You're going to explain everything to me now, right? The terrified holy maiden nodded frantically. Okay, I'll tell you everything. After a bit more intimidation, the pitiful holy maiden spilled the beans. The game company was trying to break into the immersive VR market and had given their top player, her, the only beta testing spot. But there was a small accident. To meet the summer launch deadline, the entire development team had been working insane overtime for 3 months straight. When their overtime pay kept getting denied, the programmers smashed the main server. And that's exactly when she had abnormally logged into the game, resulting in her current situation. Jean said he was just as confused as she was. But one thing was certain, this world was no longer under their control. It had become a world created solely for her. He asked if she had made any kind of wish to the system when she received the invitation code. When Penelope tried to remember, it was like the memory was blocked. She told Jean that since coming here, she had lost all her personal memories, but she still had her modern-day knowledge and game experience. She just didn't know who she was or what kind of life she had lived. She asked if he knew anything about it. Jean explained that if she had lost her memories here, there was only one possibility. She herself didn't want to remember them and had willingly discarded them. He promised he would find a way to get her out, but in the meantime, she needed to take care of herself. And also, he added, we're counting on you for the second half of the year's revenue. Penelope shot him a look that said he was asking for another beating. Then she held out her hand. Give me the divine power. She told him there was someone she wanted to save. Jean asked if she meant a character from the game. Penelope told him that to the developers, the characters might just be bugged data. But to her, their warm hugs and genuine emotions felt all too real. As long as she was in this world, she didn't want to see anyone die in front of her. She wanted the power to help them. Jean stared at her for a moment, then said, "Follow me." He stood behind Penelope in the main sanctuary, and a holy, ancient voice echoed through the hall. "In the name of the goddess Ernez, I swear to be her eyes, to see all that is beautiful, to be her hands, to fight all that is unjust. I will love this world with all that I am, and in turn, be loved by the world." When the ritual was over, Penelope walked out of the sanctuary and ran right into the prince who had rushed over. "I just received a divine message that the true divine maiden has been born," he said, breathless. "I prayed that I would see you again, and it seems the goddess heard my prayers." While the prince was chattering on, Derek appeared. He greeted the young prince formally, then turned back to Penelope with a scolding look. Penelope quickly apologized, and Derek started to lead her away. But the prince grabbed her hand. "Please become the future empress of this empire." Penelope was stunned. He had to be lying. His words were sweet, but the smile never reached his eyes. He was willing to propose to a girl he had no feelings for, just because of her divine maiden title, only to cast her aside later, like in the game. He was a total scumbag. But just then, her brother Derek pulled Penelope behind him. "My sister is still young. It is too early to speak of marriage. Please do not joke, Your Highness." The prince pulled Penelope back to his side. "Sir Eckhart, I don't recall asking for your opinion." And so began the tug-of-war. Derek said Penelope didn't agree either. The prince said that even as her brother, he had no right to decide for her. Then they both turned to Penelope. "What do you think?" Penelope was on the verge of tears. She was being held in the most awkward, uncomfortable position, suspended between them. "You two can argue all you want, but what does it have to do with me?" "My feet aren't even touching the ground," she wailed. What should have been a dramatic, heart-pounding love triangle scene felt more like being rescued from a flood like a stranded piglet. "Could you two," she asked tearfully, "please deal with my current embarrassing situation first?" They both misunderstood, pulling on her even harder. Finally, the prince seemed to get it and let her go, suggesting they settle things with a duel. But then they decided a sword fight might be too bloody for a lady's eyes, so the prince proposed they play cards instead. Penelope was flabbergasted. What was happening? Apparently, a card game called Camille Cards was all the rage. Legend had it that the goddesses Ernest and Altina created it in their spare time. The Holy Maiden introduced it to the Empire, and it became an instant hit with everyone from the king to 3-year-old commoners. Derek agreed that a duel with Camille cards was more appropriate. The prince explained the rules. There are 53 cards in a Camille deck, one of which is the dark goddess, Altina. We deal the cards, discard any pairs we have, and then take turns drawing one card from the opponent. If it makes a pair, we discard it. The first person to get rid of all their cards wins. After listening carefully, Penelope couldn't believe her ears. This was just old maid. "Let the Penelope Championship begin," a makeshift announcer declared. "The first annual Old Maid, Camille card tournament is now officially underway." "Object!" Penelope shouted. "You almost said Old Maid tournament." The announcer explained that was the original name of the game, but the Holy Maiden found it distasteful and had it changed. Penelope gritted her teeth. Of course it was that jerk. Even if she was the villainess, The marriage of the esteemed Lady Eckhart was being decided by a children's card game. They had to be joking. The game began. The prince drew first, picking the Altina card, the old maid, from Derek's hand. Penelope thought, well, at least Derek has a permanent poker face, so it's hard to read him. But just as she thought that, a field of colorful flowers bloomed behind Derek. Seeing this, the prince immediately switched his choice to another card. Flowers behind Derek instantly withered and died. How are we supposed to play like this? Penelope screamed internally. Derek, get it together! Stop blooming flowers, and stop wilting! Everyone can read you like a book. They were definitely going to lose at this rate. Penelope decided she had to do something. She ran up to Derek, gave him a quick peck on the cheek, and whispered in his ear, Go, brother, go, you have to win, you're the best. She continued to cheer him on from the side. Derek immediately perked up. Penelope figured if he just kept blooming flowers, the prince wouldn't be able to tell his emotions from the background. A minute later, the prince won anyway. Penelope realized that Derek had been drawing the old maid from the start. The guy only ever drew the middle card. The prince was about to gleefully declare his victory when Penelope shouted, Wait! The teachings of the goddess state that a person's marriage should be their own decision. Isn't it a bit rash for even a brother to decide without her consent? She took off her glove and slapped it on the table. She was going to play the next round herself. The prince said he would be honored. Penelope thought she had the element of surprise this time. She wasn't a master, but at least her background wouldn't sprout flowers. On her very first draw, she picked the old maid. The exact same thing that happened to Derek happened to her. The prince won easily again, remarking that the siblings were truly two peas in a pod. Well, the prince said cheerfully, since the person in question has now agreed, I suppose the next step is to meet the parents, isn't it? And just like that, with a ridiculous game of old maid, she had lost herself. Sitting in the carriage, Penelope's heart hammered in her chest. Her brother was in another carriage, meaning she had to face this smiling tiger of a prince alone. Finally, she worked up the courage to ask, about the marriage thing? Are you sure you don't want to reconsider? We only just met today. The prince replied, Many noble couples don't meet until their wedding day. Don't worry about it. But I think I'm still too young. That's fine. We can get engaged first. I need my parents' consent. Aren't we on our way to the Eckhart estate right now? The prince had an answer for everything. Finally, she blurted out, But I don't even like you. An awkward silence filled the carriage. Was that too direct? Penelope quickly tried to backtrack. I'm sorry, what I mean is... Suddenly, the prince's expression turned cold. And what does that matter? Penelope froze. The prince continued, It seems you fail to understand the nature of this marriage. Every 20 years, a divine maiden is born and granted power to bring hope to the people of the empire. This power can be used in almost any field. If it were to fall into the hands of another nation, it would bring misfortune to our people. Therefore, marrying the divine maiden has always been the best way to maintain stability. Do you understand? The purpose of this marriage is the long-term security of the nation. Whether or not we love each other is completely irrelevant. I can give you time to process this. But I hope you understand that the Empire will not tolerate anything that threatens its stability. Then, just as quickly, his smile returned. Of course, after we're married, you will live in the highest luxury. Please rest assured on that point. He then asked, Are you all right? You look quite pale. Just then, the carriage arrived at the gates of the Eckhart estate. The prince gallantly helped Penelope down. She was still in shock. This man was nothing like the prince she knew from the game. The Callisto who was with Claire was gentle and kind. But the man who had just spoken to her was, without a doubt, threatening her. If she refused, she might trigger an early death ending and could even endanger her new family. What do I do? The three of them walked into the courtyard together. I've known the Duke for 2 years, but this is my first time visiting his estate, the prince remarked. You've met my father? Penelope asked, thinking. That makes one of us. Yes, he's a mentor of sorts to me, the prince replied. I've often heard him speak of how poised and beautiful Lady Eckhart is. I hope my sudden visit isn't too rude. Just then, Penelope spotted her mother up ahead, holding a shovel and digging a hole. Penelope noticed some food in a maid's hands nearby, took a bite, and immediately spit it out. It was awful. It turned out her mother had gone to a tea party, where all the other noble ladies were sharing stories about things they had handmade for their children. Inspired, her mother had tried to cook for her kids, but the result was a culinary disaster. She was trying to bury the evidence before they got home. When her mother offered the leftovers to Derek, he politely declined, saying that the best way she could show her motherly love was by not cooking. His mother looked heartbroken. You don't love me anymore? The prince, standing nearby, was trying very hard not to react. Penelope turned to him. So, what do you think of the poised and beautiful Duchess Eckhart on your first meeting? The prince just gave a polite, non-committal smile. This guy is such a hypocrite, she thought. Her mother finally noticed the guest Penelope had brought home. Oh, he's so cute! What's your name? She cooed, patting him on the head. When the prince introduced himself, her mother froze. The crown prince? Penelope quickly explained they had met at the festival and just hit it off. Suddenly, the prince stood up, bowed to her mother, and said, Madam, I will be direct. I hope you will consent to my marriage with Lady Penelope. We are the perfect match destined by the goddess herself. Her mother snapped out of her shock. But you're both so young. You should talk about these things when you're older. Penelope hid behind her mother, sticking her tongue out. That's right, Mom. Tell him, and then dump that pot of mystery gunk on his head. The prince pressed on. Please believe me, this will be the most advantageous match in the Empire. Lady Penelope has just received her divine power. By joining the royal family, her power can be used to its greatest potential. It will also be incredibly beneficial for foreign diplomacy. I have already drafted a 10-year political plan, which I will now explain to you. At that moment, her mother's expression shifted wildly. She grabbed the nearest pot, pan, and chair and started chucking them at the prince, even trying to punch him. Shut up, I don't understand a single word you're saying. I said no, and I mean no. The prince dodged everything gracefully, looking flustered. Duchess Eckhart, please calm down. If there is something you don't understand, you can just ask. But just then, the pot full of mystery food flew through the air and landed squarely on the prince's head with a loud clang. Penelope and her family froze in horror. Your Highness, are you all right? The mysterious goo from the pot dripped down his hair. The prince touched a finger to it, brought it to his lips, and tasted it. Disgusting, he said flatly. Luckily, the prince didn't seem angry. He just smiled and said he wouldn't be able to go home tonight and would need to borrow their bath. Penelope marveled at his self-control. Later, Penelope wanted to try using her new divine power to heal her mother's illness. Her mother insisted she was fine, but couldn't refuse Penelope's pleading look. Penelope led her to her room and had her lie down. Focusing intently, Penelope channeled her divine power and began the healing. Her mother said it felt very soothing and soon fell asleep. Penelope continued late into the night using all her strength, but she found that no matter how much she healed, the sickness just kept regenerating. She was reaching her limit. Suddenly, a strange, powerful light erupted from her mother, throwing Penelope back. When she looked down, she saw that her own hands were covered in a black, shadowy energy. That's when she realized, no wonder the best doctors and healers in the Empire couldn't cure her mother. They were treating the wrong thing. This wasn't a disease, it was a curse. Who would place such a vicious curse on her? With her current power, Penelope couldn't hope to fight it. Just as she was about to wake her mother and ask, there was a knock on the door. She thought. The black marks on her hands wouldn't fade away that quickly. How was she going to explain this? Derek walked in, wondering why their mother had fallen asleep with the window open. He didn't see Penelope in the room, but then he heard a noise from the balcony. He whirled around, wondering who was there. Hiding on the balcony, Penelope stared at the marks on her hands. My mother's sudden illness. Was this why the in-game Derek misunderstood the original Penelope? Her brother, sensing something was wrong, came out to check. Deciding to take a risk, Penelope leaped from the balcony onto a large tree branch. But as luck would have it, her new perch gave her a perfect view into the window of the room below, where the crown prince was currently taking a bath. Their eyes met. The awkwardness was palpable. The prince was the first to speak. May I ask what you are doing? Hanging precariously from the branch, Penelope managed a weak smile. If I said I was moon-gazing, would you believe me? Does moon-gazing require such an unusual posture? The prince asked. Embarrassed, Penelope scrambled onto the branch properly, sitting with her back to him. The moon is beautiful tonight, she declared. Lady Eckhart's hobbies are certainly unique, the prince remarked dryly. Mind your own business, she thought. Was she supposed to stay like this until the marks on her hands disappeared? Then an idea came to her. Your Highness, she said, can I ask you a question? If the divine maiden wasn't the daughter of the Eckhart family, but just a commoner, would you still try to force her into marriage? The prince rose from the bath. Do you think I'm interested in you because of your noble status? He picked up an expensive bottle of hair oil from a nearby shelf. This cost 17 gold coins a bottle. A commoner in the Empire lives on less than 10 gold coins a year. Nobles shouldn't enjoy such luxury without paying a price. A loveless marriage in exchange for a lifetime of wealth and comfort, is that really such a bad deal? As long as you don't tarnish the nation's honor, I won't interfere with your life after we are married. I hope you will think about it and give me your answer tomorrow. Please, make the right choice. Just as the prince finished dressing, he noticed Penelope was still staring at him. Do you normally watch people get dressed? He asked, annoyed. Penelope quickly said she was just thinking, but she also felt a sense of relief. It seemed the prince wasn't completely unreasonable. There might still be a way out of this. About the engagement, she said firmly, I must respectfully decline. The prince sighed. I see. Don't sigh just yet, Penelope continued. I'm not trying to shirk my duties as a noble. There are many ways to fulfill one's duty, and marriage isn't the only one. She held out her hand. I can promise you that my divine power will only ever be used for the good of the Empire. But in return, I hope you will lend me your aid when I need it in the future. And why should I trust you? The prince asked. Penelope admitted, all right, I need the power of the royal family to help me investigate something. A relationship based on mutual benefit is the most reliable, don't you think? The prince laughed. Ha ha ha. You are far more interesting than I remember. He agreed to her proposal. Then, as allies, Penelope said, raising her hand, can I offer you a small piece of advice? When the prince agreed, she reached out and flicked him on the forehead. What kind of environment did you grow up in anyway? The prince rubbed his head, confused. Penelope continued, if you don't like something, say so. If you don't want to smile, don't. You have to express your true feelings so that people can understand you. And if you ever meet someone you genuinely fall for, you'd better not treat them like this, okay? The prince fell silent, thinking, no one has ever said that to me before. His parents, the ministers, the public, everyone always reminded him to act like a prince. This was the first time someone had told him to be honest with his feelings. He smiled, a genuine one this time. Penelope, he said, grabbing a lock of her hair, do you want to hear my honest opinion? If I had to choose, I think gold hair is cuter. The next day, Penelope hitched a ride into town with the prince. After they arrived, she told him she would write to him in a few days about the favor she needed. Are you sure you'll be all right with just one maid? The prince asked. We'll be fine, Penelope said. Just then, her maid cracked her knuckles with a sound like thunder and punched the ground, shattering the cobblestones. The prince stared in shock. Right then. Well, do be careful, he said, and the two parted ways. Penelope suspected the royal family might be involved with her mother's curse and needed to gather more information. She remembered that in the game, there was no better place for that than a tavern. She found one in the city and walked in. Taverns were always the best places to gather intel in games. You might find the youngest ever knight commander hitting on a long-lost archmage, or a wandering bard in the corner who was secretly the prince of a small kingdom. That little girl eating jam toast over there? She's probably a 1,000-year-old witch. All the most powerful people in the world seem to hang out in taverns. It was a classic trope of the genre. Penelope decided to start asking around. Just then, an angry voice cut through the noise. Are you deaf? I said I want a drink. Get me a drink. Penelope looked over and saw a large man grabbing a purple-haired girl by the collar. But sir, the girl said timidly, you still haven't paid for your last drink. So what if I owe you a few coins? You looking down on me? The man snarled, shoving the girl to the floor. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, she whimpered. Penelope recognized her. It was the same girl from the festival. Why was she always getting harassed by weirdos? Even the dialogue was almost the same. There are so many powerful people here, Penelope thought. Someone else will probably step in. It's better not to get involved. But then the girl spotted Penelope. Lady Eckhart, is that really you? Am I dreaming? She cried out, grabbing Penelope's hand. Penelope was completely thrown. Whenever I'm in trouble, you appear, the girl continued, her eyes wide with awe. Are you an angel? No, Penelope stammered. Look, you seem busy, so maybe I should just go. No, wait, the girl said. Just give me 1 second, I'll take care of this. She then picked up a fruit knife from the counter. The large man was still blustering. If you get on your knees and beg, maybe I'll consider... He trailed off as a sharp blade appeared in front of his face. The little girl's voice was soft but chilling. I have a very, very important guest right now that I absolutely cannot neglect. So could you please leave? With a terrified, I'm sorry, the man scrambled away. The girl put down the knife and grabbed Penelope's hand again, her expression back to one of pure delight. Lady Eckhart, it's so wonderful to see you again. This must be fate. Penelope just sighed. Why do I always get tangled up with the weirdest people?